43 has a blanket.
Yep.
So even during the COVID-19 pandemic, we still feel the need to create and have adventures.
So, if you guys don't know, Norelle actually has always been
In Acadian Books and Livres, and look behind me. Am I in heaven or in hell? There's a word for that. I can't. Bibliophile.
Bibliophile. Ever since she was a kid, she wanted to be an author.
Yes. I still might want to do that.
So you started a blog called Seattle Wrote, and there you interviewed hundreds of Seattle authors. Mm-hmm. And they encouraged you to get involved and write something yourself. So back in 2012, you wrote a draft for NaNoWriMo.
Yes, National Novel Writing Month, which we'll get into in a little bit. I think doing the process of NaNoWriMo again for me was less about the story and more about a commitment to myself to do this thing again. I've done it before, but after I finished that first draft of a novel in 2012, I didn't do anything with it. I returned back to it and looked at it one or two times, but it wasn't like I sat down and started editing and started working toward publishing, and that's something that I would really like to change moving forward. That process for me of like working and then getting done with work for the day and sitting down to write and making that a daily process, I think was really valuable for me, and something that I really needed to like have that creative outlet for. But it was also just a little bit of a break from the constant like stagnant feeling that kind of can creep in during the pandemic and everything, where we're stuck inside and we're not really able to go out and do the things that we would normally do. Can't go out to eat, can't go out to see people, all of that stuff. So that feeling of being stuck at doing this project really helped kind of unlock that a little bit for me. And I think that was the most important reason to do this. And now telling this story, like, I think it's really important and really valuable for all people to kind of look at where we've come from as a species, like as humans.
So, inspiration pretty much always comes from experience, something new and different. And we've had, an interesting experience this year.
Quite the experience.
Yeah, traveling across the United States, living in a converted Suburban. You guys should check it out. We did a YouTube video, or 74 on that. But yeah, so now it's a question of what are you going to do with that experience,
right,
and create something new out of it.
Yeah, and I think along the way we're both history buffs.
So they ate them.
Yes, and I love all things history.
Alien 1, those are the guys from Monsters, Inc.
And one thing that we really did along the way was listen to a lot of podcasts and some audiobooks about the places that we were going, and sometimes after visiting them. And we read or listened to an audiobook by Graham Hancock, and that was America Before. And then we also listened to a book by Craig Childs called House of Rain, really going into early people in the Americas and the Clovis people and kind of what their experience was like, and the Younger Dryas period and all of those things. Oh, yeah. Danny likes to check out the news a lot. I've been kind of sequestering myself in recent months. But one of the things that he found was an article about these footprints that were found in White Sands, New Mexico, and they're dated back to 12,000 years. They were the footprints of a woman walking in one direction across a dried lake bed, and parts of the way they found the footprints of a small child, maybe like 2 years old. And I was just like captivated by that story and the questions that arose from it, because like you have this woman and it's this classic situation where she's walking, she's carrying the child sometimes, and then sometimes the child wants to be down, so she lets him down to walk. But another interesting thing about the footprints is they only go in one direction, and then for the return journey it's just the woman's footprints. So it was kind of like, why would somebody take a child somewhere and leave them? Like, what's going on there?
Especially 12,000 years ago.
Where did she come from, and what's going on in this area? Because
was the lake dried up?
Yeah, the lake is drying up, and it's this huge lake, Lake Otero, which doesn't exist anymore, obviously. And yeah, so it was just an interesting story that like created a lot of questions in me. And it like I think I found this article in late October or something, and I had been thinking about doing NaNoWriMo again. And just didn't have an idea that I was interested enough in to write 50,000 words about, until you found this article. And
yeah, and instantly I showed it to you. I've been holding on to it for a few days, just because you weren't in the right mood to look at archaeology stuff. You gotta know, like as a husband, you gotta know when is a good time to show stuff you're geeking out about. So when I showed you, it was like,
that's
10
it.
seconds.
That's the story.
You're like, yes, I want to know more about this woman's story from 12,000 years ago.
Yeah.
She set the challenge for herself the next day.
Yeah, so NaNoWriMo, it's short for National Novel Writing Month, and it happens every year in November. And basically, people who are interested sign up. It's free, and they commit to writing 50,000 words in 30 days. And so that ends up to being around 1,600 words every day that you got to get in order to stay on track for the goal. So I did that first in 2012, and now have just done it again. The nice thing is like the accountability, and then also just the community. It's a really nice way to like stick to a goal of writing every day and have something like a benchmark that is reasonable but also challenging. So the idea came together really quickly based off of that news article that Danny found, but the process for figuring out how I was going to tell a story about footprints in 50,000 words required a little bit more outlining. So kind of what we did is we just kind of talked through, and Danny really helped with this process a lot, just talking through different storylines and story tropes and how that might apply. And what we came down to was the hero's journey really worked out in this idea of a woman carrying a child to one place and then leaving him there, and then proceeding on her own route toward what? Where was she going? Why was she leaving the child? All of those questions I kind of wanted to answer in the mode of the hero's journey and take her through that process and really grow and learn with the character that way. She's going through some of the same places that we went on our trip, but she's doing it on foot and with this young child. So some things I could relate to, but then other things I couldn't, because she's supposed to have existed 12,000 years before I am living today. So how do I kind of bring in those aspects of what we know? I just kind of thought about like, what would I do in this situation? How would I react? What are some emotions that I would feel? Mixture of feelings and thoughts, and just kind of journey for myself as well as for the characters in the book. And now telling this story, like, I think it's really important and really valuable for all people to kind of look at where we've come from as a species, like as humans, and really focus on that from like, this is what we've overcome and this is how we've grown to be what we are today, and remind us that we're in this together. And so telling a story of someone that could have existed and what she might have experienced 12,000 years ago, I think is just a really interesting way to go about thinking about that. And I don't know, hopefully I did that in a useful way, or hopefully I had the chance to edit it to be more like that. That is certainly my hope with this whole project.